Just a few weeks ago I was at this exact spot, and they hadn't had any rain here in Australia for years virtually. Look at it now. And I'll head over to where I was. This is the place where I used to cut wood on years back. Look at the grass here now. Have to be a bit careful where I walk, because this place used to be lousy with brown snakes, and get bit with one of those, it could be a one-way trip, and there used to be some really nasty looking guys on this property. So I'll probably put up a video of when I walked to this fence line only about 2 or 3 weeks back, when this place was totally bare. And if you look at it now, like, we've had a lot of rain out here. Look how green it is. So if I get my old video up, it was all dry in here, and when you look back through these paddocks now, I bet you the owner now is really smiling, because look at the grass everywhere. Even when I was here a few weeks back, and probably it was only 3 weeks back, this was just totally bare. So I don't know how much rain they've had in this area, but a huge amount by the looks of it, because that was that tree I was telling you about. I don't think I could zoom in before, but that was that tree I cut down 30 years back. And coming in on it there. But we'll do a comparison video, and I'll see if I can put a clip up. But when you look at it, how much grass is here now, it's hard to believe. I bet 3 weeks back he thought the party was over for him, but it's just remarkable how much the countryside's changed around here in 3 weeks. But anyway, let's get back to the bike. So guys, what I'm going to give you is a 4-month 5,000 kilometre review on the bike. So it's 4 months I've had the bike, covered 5,000 kilometres, and now I get out of here. Okay, so 4 months back I picked the bike up, brand new, and 4 months later with 5,000 k's on the clock, in all honesty, I haven't really had any big drama with the bike whatsoever. A couple of little niggles. There's a bike parked over there. Set her up now. There's a bike parked there. Still looks good. It's virtually in original condition. I've never washed or cleaned the bike since I purchased it, so you could say that's pretty close to original condition to me. Now I've actually done all the servicing myself, so at 500 kilometres I did the first oil and filter change, adjusted the valves, and I haven't had any problems from the time I adjusted the valves at 500 kilometres up until 5,000 kilometres, or I think it's 5,000. We'll just rip the key out and do a kilometre check, and it comes in at 5,115 kilometres as of now. So in 4,600 kilometres, all's good from the valve adjusting. And the only thing I've done is first step at 500 kilometres, but like I said, grease oil change. Correction, I'm not doing a car. Oil and filter change, the valve adjustment. Then I put in Silcoline on the oil change, and I ran that 3,000 kilometres up to 3,500 kilometres. Wasn't all that impressed by that Silcoline, because I thought it might eliminate my 56 gear problem with the neutral I was getting all the time. And that's been the main hiccup on this bike, the neutral, but that didn't fix it, so I moved to a semi-synthetic, and from 3,500 up to what it is now, it's been running semi-synthetic. It's no worse, and if anything, I've picked up still the odd neutral from 56 gear change, running from 80 to 100 kilometres an hour when I fly into 6th gear. But apart from that, the bike is running well in all areas in that line. As for chain adjustment, I did one chain adjustment at the 500 kilometre mark, and as you can see the wheel's pretty dirty. I've never cleaned it up either, but I have oiled the chain a couple of times and it's pretty good and doesn't need any more adjustment at the moment. But as you can see, I don't know, I might get around to cleaning this bike up a bit shortly and tidy it up, but at this stage it's just had the one chain adjustment and been running it nice and smooth on that one adjustment since then. When I had the 56 neutral problems, I tried various fixes apart from the oil, and I changed the gear shifter into a lower position. I went from 31 centimetres down to 29.5. That helped it a little bit because I was getting quite a few false neutrals. Now I think it's running at 29.5 centimetres from dead level, and I don't get very many false neutrals now, but they do persist at times, and I don't know, I think the first Interceptor I had never had any issues there, and I think this false neutral business goes from bike to bike, and some bikes don't get them and some do. It's just, I've had the same problem with Classic 500s. Some are really good when you get them and some aren't. I think it's just the lack of the draw. If we look at fuel consumption, now that it's properly running, I usually just run at 60 mile an hour or 100 k's here in Australia. I might step over that every now and again, but I don't make a habit of it. So on average, it appears that I'm running at around about 30 kilometres to a litre, and as usual, usually I just run around about 300 kilometres to a tank. I find the fuel gauge highly unreliable. Yes, so by what I mean unreliable, when the gauge is totally full, it might sit all right at the top level, then once you turn the key off it'll drop a bar, then you'll drive 100 kilometres, then it'll drop another bar or two, then you'll be out there driving another 25 or 50 kilometres, get back on, be on 3, you'll just go a few kilometres, get off the bike, and then it'll go to 2 and then start flashing, or might even, and it'll drop that pretty quick. Then after that you've just got no idea how much petrol's in the tank unless you've got a rough idea how many kilometres or the odometer was showing prior to filling the tank up. And that's the best idea when you fill the tank up. Either set your trip meter, and then if you work on 300 kilometres and you don't ride hard, that will get you out of trouble. You can see here the motor's a little bit grubby or dusty over the top of the head, but that's mainly just surface dust. When I put the tappet cover gasket back on and I used oil, and the oil, once it was put back together and got hot, just leaked around the outside of the cover when it melted, and it attracted dust on the motor. But apart from that, that's been good in that area, and I hadn't had any trouble, and it was cleaned up and kept nice. Well, you probably wouldn't even see that, but like I said, I haven't cleaned the bike, so that's why you see it. Okay, we'll do a rear tyre tread test at 5,000 kilometres or 3,000 miles in the centre. So that's the actual depth of it. It's probably about 3.5 mil. I've actually heard reports where some people say, or not some, but a couple have mentioned that their ABS system on the rear brakes haven't been working, and they've had actually rear disc lock-up, but I haven't had any experience at all with the ABS system. It works fine. You can come into it and give it a good fistful of braking, and I've come down from, you know, a few hundred kilometres an hour runs fairly hard and brought it down to a near standstill. I haven't had any trouble with any locking up. I haven't even felt the ABS come on, and I've come down from 100 k's really quick and really planted my hand on that brake lever and brought it down fast. So as far as I'm concerned, the braking system works fine. One thing I have noticed, when you're out on the road in here or these areas like in Australia and it's around 30 degrees or a bit over 30 like in summer, you do find if it's a hot windy day, depends on how things are going, you do feel a little bit of warmth or a slight bit of heat come off the cylinder heads. So, you know, you can come along, and even today when I was coming out, it's a bit overcast, cloudy, still pushing around 30 degrees, slightly muggy, possibly going to rain again this afternoon, and you can still feel a bit of heat coming from the cylinder head. Nothing exciting or anything like that, but you just do feel a little bit of heat. one thing worth mentioning on this bike, although they're fitted with Pirelli Phantom tyres, as far as I know they're not the really good quality Pirelli Phantom, or the best quality. They're just made to a price. Now, there are quite a few reports of these Pirelli Phantom not being true, or there've been a lot of complaints where people have been riding them and they reckon they've been getting wobble in the tyres around 50 or in between 50 and 80 kilometres an hour, and they've been returning the bikes to the dealers, and the dealers have been thinking it's somewhere in the front end or somewhere something to do with the brakes or something to do with the steering, and then they found out it was the tyres that had been causing the problem. So if you've got one of these bikes and you're wondering why you've got a little bit of a wobble or something in the front end at a certain speed, and it goes in and it goes out and it goes the other, you'd be better off looking into it, because it's not a case where, like I've read, one real drawback about the bike I would say would be the suspension. It's not really good in the front end or the ride position on rough roads. And I've been looking at another video lately where there's been a biker set up great suspension to the rear shocks, and the reports have come really favourable. But you know, I went into the detail and went to the site here in Australia about fitting those shocks, and I'm not a miserable person as far as spending money. I don't mind spending money at all, but in fact I enjoy it. But geez, I really don't know. I don't know what the prices are overseas, but when I went to the bloody Aussie side who handles it, they want $1,500 for a pair of shocks. Like $1,500 for 2 bloody shock absorbers. I'm not going to give anyone $1,500 for 2 shock absorbers, and I don't even ride hard. I was only going to buy them and test them myself to see what they were like and give my opinion on them. But for a channel that earns nothing, I've just wasted my bloody money. So it'll be different all these buds where they get out there and they test stuff and they earn something, but I've only just bought a set of shocks for no reason at all. So you know, I think at this stage, later on I may do something with different oil, or maybe a spring in the front where you're riding along and hit something in the front, you hear that bang in the front when you hit a rough section of road. But I think I could put up with the rear of it and just keep throwing a few accessories on the bike as is, and just keep jazzing it up and go from there. But $1,500, geez, that's 1/6 the cost of the new bike if I would look at it that way. So, or another bike. So I think it'd be just, for me, waste of money, and forget that idea on the shocks unless you know, another better idea comes up. Because once when I had the Classic 500, I put Hagen shocks on for about $400 after advice from a few people. Put them on the bike and they rode that hard. I sold them probably within a week because the advice wasn't all that crash on. So sometimes, you know, like you have to wonder when the source comes in. You know, did the people who supply the information, did they actually pay the money themselves? Did they get them for nothing? Did they get a cutback? All these sort of things you've got to ask. And anything you see me do to this bike, one thing about it, I pay everything myself, buy the lot. If it doesn't work, I tell you it's no good, and then get rid of it or throw it aside or something like that. And then you know, well, it's his money wasted and who cares. So, you know, that's what I think at this stage. As far as wasting $1,500 on a pair of shocks, I don't know, maybe if they were $800 I might have threw it, but you know, 800 is nothing. But $1,500 for a set of shocks to sit on the back, I don't know. I don't know if I like the motorbike that much. But anyway, that's the story on the shocks. So if you ask me what's the main gripe I would find with the Interceptor, I think the main one would be, you know, there's nothing much, would be it's a bit affected by strong winds when you're out riding, and because it weighs around about that 200 kilo mark, it's blown a bit around by the wind, so the balance is not sort of really good, like as far as when you're out there cruising along. If you get into gusty wind conditions, or even not even gusty, just windy conditions, you will feel it moves the bike around, probably equal to a 500cc single in a Royal Enfield Classic 500, very similar to that. They both weigh in around about the same weight, so they're both affected in the wind area that way. The only difference between the 650 and the 500, the 650 you can use a bit of power to pull yourself out if you get caught up in a windy situation, so the extra 20 horsepower helps. Yeah, so I went about the drone with me yesterday when I came out. I also had a flat battery on this camera, because you never know how long I'm going to last. I've only got the one battery. So I did this 130 kilometre run today out here to do the video again, so that's how much I like riding this 650. So, you know, it is a really good bike to ride, sort of relaxing bike and get out there. I suppose one good thing I might point out now is on the Interceptor, don't you think it looks pretty good with the Continental GT touring seat? I'm getting used to that now, but sometimes I swap maybe between that and the standard seat, and I now find that I reckon it looks better on the Interceptor with that seat, and I'm getting used to riding it now with it on, and I think it performs better, but it's not bad on the tail end section, so it's not bad in that area, so I'll probably run it more now with that on. Just thought I'd push it out of that way and back under this tree because it's a bit hot here at the moment. So, say for example now you're out there looking for a bike, and I've ridden this now 5,000 kilometres, and it's a good comparison. Say if you were thinking of buying a Royal Enfield, for example, or a bike, say you live in Australia, you had 10 grand to spend and you're after a classic style of a bike to ride. There's really not much choice you can buy, like in the old period style bikes. You can either buy a restored one, which with a restored bike comes all the problems associated with an old bike restored, and that's usually, they are problems. Or you can buy something like the 650 Interceptor, which in Australia is roughly 10 grand, or you can buy a classic 500, which is roughly $9,000. Or if you don't want to buy these sort of bikes, you could probably run to a CV500X or a Kawasaki Verzi. I've had both those bikes brand new in the last couple of years, and even though they are really nice bikes to ride, and I've got nothing against either one of them, I've actually had two CV500Xs over the last 18 months and a Kawasaki Verzi a couple of years back. They're good bikes to ride, but the Interceptor, you know, has got a bit of character. Now if you're looking for a bike, most likely you want to do long hauls on. Most likely we're not sure about how the Interceptors are going to go long term, so trouble free. I suppose a Honda or a Kawasaki would be the bike to jump on if you're going to go big runs, trouble free, just get on and ride it. But seeing you're on this site looking at my 5,000 review on the Interceptor, that would indicate to me that you're interested in one of these bikes, and I think if you think about buying an Enfield, this is a very good choice.